Hi there and welcome back to the channel. We are following up our popular Club Head Speed Series video that we did last week at 85 miles an hour with the drivers to now feature 95 miles an hour. So if you are that golfer that fits into that Club Head Speed bracket, then this video is for you. We've got 4 of the kind of newest releases and best releases this year to put through their paces. We obviously have a few models missing, so the likes of Cobra, which we haven't got any samples of at the moment, we had to send those back. Titleist, which we're desperately trying to get hold of some samples for, and also Strixon, which we've asked for some more samples to use there as well. But for now, we've got 4 of the biggest and best. So we've got Wilson Dynapower Max, we have Qi35, we have Callaway Elyte, and we also have PING G440 Max here as well. So we are going to try all these at 95 miles an hour and also kind of fit them as we go along. We may have to change lofts and shafts and things like that in order to get the best performance out of them. So following on, like I say, from the video that we did last week at 85 miles an hour, which loads of you have interacted with and really enjoyed, we want you to do the same with this. So ask us loads of questions because it's very difficult this time of year when there's lots of product being kind of thrust upon you and claiming to be the best new driver on the market. And you know, we get that every single year. Sometimes it can be a bit tiresome, but there are lots of technologies in these that are designed to help you as a golfer. Now, following on from the video we did last week, I really found that it kind of opened my eyes a little bit to how we fit drivers better at that club head speed. So at 85 miles an hour, I was shocked how much loft I needed to add to these drivers in order to get the performance, and also how kind of weaker shaft I needed to use and lighter shaft in order to get the launch I needed. So some of the shafts that are available now in the really light options that we see, you know, the 40 grams and 45 grams of this world that are now available as stock shafts in many of these brands, really do a great job. And also the lighter heads that are available, and obviously the adjustability in loft to get it up there as much as possible too. So I'm expecting when we test these to see quite similar stuff really. I think I'm probably going to have to go a bit higher in loft on most of them, and I've put regular shafts in them all as well. So 95 miles an hour, you're kind of on the borderline there between regular and stiff in many of the stock shafts that are put in manufacturers' clubs right now. I'm going to use regulars, just see exactly how they perform. But as we hit them, I'll talk to you about what I've done to the driver to try and make it perform its best. So let's go try all these 4 drivers, hit some on the Trackman here and see exactly how they perform. So we're going to start with the Wilson Dynapower Max. Now I've got the 10.5 degree head with the Ventus TR5 regular. So quite a lighter shaft compared to what I'm used to, and more loft at 10.5. Now we're going to start off at this. We may end up adjusting it ever so slightly depending on results, but I would imagine, you know, 10.5 at least is what I'm going to need loft-wise, certainly judging on what we saw at 85 miles an hour. So let's hit a few and see how it performs. I mean, initially, sat behind the golf ball, doesn't really look particularly draw bias. I think it actually looks quite nice. Sat behind the golf ball, isn't off-putting at all. I think the aesthetics of this driver are great. They look really, really good. I think the gloss on the top of it looks really nice, and this very subtle Wilson kind of red accent around the heel of it looks decent as well. So let's give it a few hits and see how it performs. I mean, it feels very solid off the face, really, really good. Just pushed it down the right-hand side a little bit. It's always odd with these because I expect them to be so draw biased that I'm kind of fighting them going left all the time, but that did not feel like that at all. It's pretty much bang on our number speed-wise as well. Let's see if we can hit one down the centre. I mean, that's still okay. It's probably in play. There's a better strike. So yeah, it's a little bit more down the middle. So yeah, that felt really, really solid off the face. I can see already, in terms of spin and launch, they're quite low. So what I'm going to do to this is adjust it ever so slightly, knock the loft up a tiny bit, and hopefully get slightly better results because they're spinning super low, these. The one negative I've got about this driver is when you adjust it, all the others, when you put the shaft in, basically slot straight in the housing and just screw straight in. The Wilson one doesn't do that for some reason. It's a little bit more fiddly to try and get the adjustment in the right place, but it's a very minor thing. But when you're custom fitting all the time and you're having to change the loft in these, it is quite annoying. So Wilson, if you can get it just to slot in, that'd be great. Right, let's hit a few more. So we've got that 1 degree more loft on this now. So I'm hoping that we get a bit more launch and potentially a tiny bit more spin. It's definitely more solid hit. Yeah, we'll take that one just down the left-hand side. Again, quite a low flight. I mean, the one before that just obviously left the face massively open, but distance is good. It's a little bit down carry-wise on where I'd expect it, but because the spin's so low, it's running a long way. So, yeah, good. I'm going to hit a load more with this, and then, you know, if I make any adjustments, I'll obviously let you guys know that, and then we'll move on to the next driver. So the second one I'm going to try is G440 Max. Now, I've got this set. I've already hit a few shots with this, just to sort of, so you're not watching me adjust the driver all the time. So I've got the weight in the neutral position in the back, and I've also lofted it down a bit because it was in the 10.5 setting initially. I've hit some shots with it. It was just going really high, and to be honest, curving to the right a lot as well. So I've not put it in that draw position. I'm hoping that just lofting it down a bit will stop some of the spin, but it definitely doesn't feel anywhere near as draw bias as the Wilson one did, although that was quite neutral, really. So initially, let's talk about looks. Now, really like the sort of carbony look on the top of it. The turbulators, anyone who's watched videos before where I've hit Ping stuff, not really a big fan. Don't think they look particularly great, but they obviously serve a purpose, and loads of you out there absolutely love them. So, you know, I'm probably in the, it's a bit of a 50-50 kind of split, I think, between people that like them and don't like them, but yeah, I think really the driver looks pretty good in terms of the footprint. It's nice and imposing and big and forgiving looking. I just like the look of it, and the feel of it is very good too. So let's just hit a few shots and see how it performs now I've knocked this loft down. Yeah, pretty good. Again, high, very, very high. So it's kind of what I'm seeing with this driver a lot. And when I did the sort of standalone test of, so we only have G440 Max and the SFT model to test at the moment, but yeah, they just go very, very high. And, you know, there's loads of golfers out there that is amazing for. Some of you really struggle to get the ball in the air. You can't launch it. This driver could be amazing for you. So I'm going to hit a load more with this, get some data to compare, and then we'll move on to driver number 3. So our next one is Qi35. So this is the standard or the core model, as everyone is calling it this year. Weighting, you know, the heavier weight is at the back, so the 13 gram, 3 at the front. And I've actually just hit a few shots with it beforehand in the 10.5 standard position and couldn't get it in the air at all. So I've actually knocked it right up into the higher setting. So this is 12.5 degrees now. The biggest difference when sitting this behind the ball, you know, I like the look of the head, and it looks quite big and forgiving, and I love that grey sort of colour story on the top of it. But now that I've added some loft, it honestly, it looks like it's going to go sideways left on me all the time. It just looks like it's aiming over there somewhere, which for lots of you out there, that, you know, there's so many people I teach when they set up, they hood the facing anyway. You'll absolutely love it. You know, those of you that slice the ball a bit are going to absolutely love the look of this driver because it looks like it can't go to the right. Better. It felt like I've launched it a bit better as well. Yeah, there's a bit more height on that, so that's good. So that addition of a couple of degrees more loft has definitely made a difference to the flight. I can still see the spin. The spin's still low. That was 2,300 RPM, so that's still down there. But now I'm getting a bit more carry and a bit more total distance. So yeah, pretty good. Let's hit a few more. Yep, it's gone left. So, like I say, it just feels like it wants to do that all the time. So that, yeah, I mean, that in a nutshell is what this driver is going to do for you. It's going to spin it low, and it's going to be draw biased, and probably flight it down. And I kind of think that highlights the fact that you need to get fitted for every single one of these drivers, because the fact that I'm 12.5 in this, and essentially 10 degrees in the Ping, tells you really that, you know, you're not always the same loft in every driver, okay? And they don't all work the same. There's very, very different performance kind of benefits with each one, so you really do need to get fitted for them. Right, I'm going to hit a load more with this to get some data and then move on to our final one. So our fourth and final driver in today's test is the Callaway Elyte. So we've gone for the standard Elyte model here. We've got the weight in the back, in the center of the driver, and having hit a few, again, I've had to nudge the loft up because it was quite low spin-wise. So this is 10.5 lofted to 11.5 in order to get a little bit more launch and spin. This time we've gone Denali in the shafts of the 50 gram regular that comes in it as a standard option to see exactly how that feels. So let's hit a few and I'll give you a bit of feedback as to what it looks like. I think looks-wise, you can tell it's a Callaway driver. The way it sits, we've obviously got the chevron on the top, that kind of contrast between the gloss on the top there and then that matte sort of carbony crown on there, I think looks really, really good, with a little Elyte kind of motif on the heel there as well that looks pretty good too. I know a lot of you absolutely hate the look of the bottom of this driver, and I must say I'm not a big fan, but you don't hit the ball with that bit, do you? So yeah, I think the face is great, and that sort of playing position look of this driver I think is really good too. So let's hit a few shots and see how it feels compared to the others. Now, I would say there's a definite look of draw bias in this as well, so it does sit that little bit like it wants to go a little bit left on me. I can see loads of the loft on it, which loads of you'll love that as well, but very different to the sort of drivers I'm used to. But let's see how it performs. I mean, it feels amazing off the face. Very, very quick. Yeah, that's good. Really good. Happy with that. Wow, that does feel really good. I think probably off the face, this feels the best of any of the ones that we've hit so far. A little bit more cutty, that one. Yeah, again, pretty good. A little bit out of the toe, but I think it's okay. Yeah, decent shot again. Again, I think this feels better off the face than any of the others that we've tried so far. Whether that'll be backed up by the numbers that we see, I don't know. It might just be a personal preference thing. But I'm going to hit a load more with this, and then let's have a bit of a look at the results. So now we've had a chance to hit shots with all of these drivers, we can really see some subtle differences between the performance. Particularly, you know, if we look at all of them there, in terms of the ball speed, they're all pretty similar, that they're coming off the face. So the club head speed I'm putting in there, it kind of varies a little bit. So got it really good on the Wilson one, bang on 95 miles an hour, slightly more, just 0.1 of a mile an hour average more with the Callaway, 0.3 more with the Ping, and 0.7 more with Qi35. So they're all within 0.7 of a mile an hour on average, so pretty close. Now, when we look at the spins that we're getting, there are some quite big differences really. So from the lowest spinning that we saw, which was the Wilson, up to the highest spinning which we saw in Ping, and certainly when hitting that, it felt like it was not only spinning more, but launching higher and kind of was less draw bias, I suppose, than the others as well. So it kind of didn't have that draw bias inherently in there that the other models really felt like they did. I, particularly with Qi35, really felt like I was trying to stop it going left on me all the time, almost trying to hold the face open. And, you know, I think in general it did finish slightly left of target. And, you know, if we look at the little dispersion here, you can clearly see the red ones that are the G440 Max. They're much higher and generally faded out to the right a little bit more. So the kind of way that the head was weighted, I think will you know, suit different types of golfer really. I think throughout the four drivers that we've used here, the majority are quite low spin really, and the Wilson Dynapower Max quite severely really. If you're that player who does cut across it a lot and impart lots of spin on the golf ball, that driver could be amazing for you. And we see ball speeds, like I say, they're pretty consistent across all four that we've tried here. In terms of the carry distances we're getting, again, quite similar. I mean, because of that lack of spin with the Dynapower Max, it's just landing slightly shorter, so 222, nearly 223 as an average. The Callaway 225, G440 Max 225.7, and Qi35 at just short of 225. So that they're all about 225, apart from the Wilson. I think that's more of a spin thing really. But then when we look at total distance, because of that spin, the Wilson one's running a decent distance, and they're all around that sort of 250 mark really, with the Callaway and Wilson Dynapower Max just edging towards that 255, purely because of the spin being slightly lower. So yeah, we can see differences between all these models, and certainly when hitting them, there's obviously a huge difference in how they look, and also the amount of draw bias that there are kind of inherently in these drivers. And certainly I felt like the TaylorMade Qi35 really felt like it was quite draw bias. Now, I also had to adjust the lofts in a lot of these to try and get some performance out of them. So, for instance, the G440 Max, it was the 10.5 degree head, which was just going ridiculously high and spinny when I first started hitting it. So I knocked a bit of loft off that to try and get the flight and the spin down to what you see here. So I've put it on the kind of minus setting in there to take some of that off, which is very different to some of the other models. So particularly Qi35, that was the 10.5 degree head. I actually had to set that on the higher setting because it was going too low and spinning too low. So it's actually 12.5 degrees, that head, which, you know, very different from what we're seeing with the Ping, but to try and get some sort of comparison in the data there. Now, the Elyte in Callaway as well was the 10.5 head, lofted up to 11.5, and the Wilson Dynapower was 10.5, lofted up to 11.5 as well. So yeah, we are having to make some changes there in how these drivers are set up, but you can see there with the data, there are differences and subtle differences at this 95 miles an hour speed. Now, we will be following this up with 105 miles an hour and see exactly how these perform there. But for now, we'll see you later.